Imagine that tomorrow morning, the entire population of Portugal, plus everyone in the city of Madrid, was forced to leave their homes. Imagine children, the elderly, doctors, everyone running with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Imagine the cities empty and the hospitals turned into battlefields. If this happened in Europe, it would be the only thing on your television. It would be the only topic on your social media feed. The world would stop. But this has already happened, and it is happening right now. Not in Europe, but in Sudan. More than 12 to 14 million people have been displaced. It is the largest displacement crisis on the planet today, surpassing both Ukraine and Gaza. Yet, if you open a Western newspaper right now, you will likely have to scroll to the very bottom, if you find a mention at all. Have you ever felt that the world chooses which tragedies deserve our empathy? That there is an invisible hierarchy of suffering? You are not crazy. That feeling is real. And what is happening in Sudan is not just a distant civil war. It is a mirror of how the global system and our own attention span is broken. Today, we are not just going to look at the war. We are going to look at the silence. To understand what is happening, we need to simplify the complexity without losing the humanity. Sudan is being torn apart by two men. On one side, General al-Burhan, head of the Sudanese Armed Forces, SAF. On the other, General Hemedti, leader of the Rapid Support Forces, RSF. Think of it like this. Imagine two business partners running a massive house. In 2019, the residents of the house, the people, revolted and demanded democracy. These two partners pretended to agree, but in 2021, they staged a coup together to seize the deed to the house. The problem? There can only be one boss. And when they disagreed on who would be in charge, specifically on how long it would take to integrate their armies, they didn't go to court. They decided to burn the house down with everyone inside to see who would rule over the ashes. But why should we pause our day to talk about this now? Because the cost of ignoring this has crossed every rational limit. We are talking about the worst hunger crisis of the 21st century. More than 30 million people, more than half the country's population, need help to survive today. What we will cover in the next few minutes isn't just who is shooting at whom. We are going to unpack the brutal reality of the numbers the media isn't showing you, how this conflict has become a world war in disguise, and the most uncomfortable question of all, why does the world allow this to happen in the dark? Often, when we hear war statistics, they sound like abstract data. Let's translate this into human reality. Data point 1. The abyss of hunger. Reports indicate that 21.2 million people are facing acute food insecurity. Picture a room of 10 people. 5 of them do not know if they will eat today. In places like the Zamzam camp in North Darfur, malnutrition rates have already crossed the threshold of catastrophic famine. People aren't just hungry. Survivors report eating peanut shells, tree leaves, and even soil just to trick their stomachs. Data point 2. The disappearing children. A devastating estimate by the Sudan Doctors Union suggests that over 500,000 children may have died from malnutrition since the war began. That is 500,000 lives that ended before they truly began. This number far exceeds the direct deaths from bullets and bombs. But here is the scariest reality check. We do not know the real death toll. Official figures speak of 40,000 to 250,000 deaths, but former envoys believe the real number could exceed 400,000. Why this gap? Because there is no one there to count. Journalists have fled, the internet is cut off, and entering these zones is a death sentence. The uncertainty of the data is not a lack of science. It is proof of abandonment. And while this happens, the world's attention is elsewhere. An analysis of a major German news program showed that in 2023, the war in Ukraine received 86,000 seconds of coverage. Sudan? 1,365 seconds. In 2024, as the famine exploded, coverage of Sudan actually dropped by half. The worse the situation gets, the less we look. What does this look like in real life? Not in the statistics, but in an average person's Tuesday. Scenario 1. The kitchen that closed. When the war started and big international NGOs evacuated, the Sudanese people saved themselves. Young people created emergency response rooms and communal kitchens. Neighbors cooking for neighbors. But the money ran out. About 80% of these kitchens have had to close. Imagine being a mother like Hanan, who relied on that kitchen to feed her children and get medicine for high blood pressure. One day, the kitchen closes, not because there is no food in the world, but because international funding cut the budget. The UN appeal received less than 30% of the necessary money. Scenario 2. The body as a battlefield. There is an even darker layer. If you are a woman in Darfur or Khartoum today, fear is constant. Reports from Amnesty International and the UN confirm sexual violence is not a side effect, it is a weapon of war. Women report being kidnapped and held in hotels for days. Mothers raped in front of their children. One survivor said, "They raped us all." The goal is not just to hurt the body, it's to destroy the soul of the community, to force displacement, to humiliate. If you have ever felt fear walking down a dark street at night, multiply that by the certainty of impunity. That is what it means to live in El Fasher today. Many people stop at the surface level. Oh, it's just another tribal war in Africa. That is what they want you to think, but the research points to a deeper, quieter cause. This is not an isolated civil war. It is a proxy war. Sudan has become a chessboard for foreign powers. 1. The game of nations. The weapons killing civilians in Sudan are not manufactured there. On one side, evidence shows the United Arab Emirates supporting the paramilitary forces RSF through supply routes in Chad and Libya. Why? Gold and strategic interests in the Red Sea. On the other hand, Egypt and Iran support the official army, SAF. Iran provides drones to gain influence against Saudi Arabia. Even Russia switched sides in the middle of the game, seeking a naval base. Sudanese suffering is being funded by global interests. 2. The racism of neglect. But there is another invisible force, the bias of our attention. Why is Ukraine framed as a defense of democracy while Sudan is seen as a regional conflict? Experts call this humanitarian racism. Studies show that 8 of the world's most neglected crises are in Africa. There is a structural perception that violence is natural for the African continent, which generates global resignation. We look at it and think there is nothing to be done. That is a lie. This catastrophe is permitted, not inevitable. In the face of something this huge, it is normal to feel paralyzed. But paralysis is what allows the silence to continue. We are not going to give generic tips here. I want to propose 3 experiments for you to try this week. Experiment 1. Break the algorithm. Social media algorithms will not show you Sudan unless you force them to. For the next 7 days, actively follow 3 accounts that cover Africa or Sudan specifically. Look for local journalists or NGOs like the Norwegian Refugee Council or Sudanese activists. Why do this? Because attention generates pressure. If the audience clicks, the media covers it. If the media covers it, politicians feel the pressure to act. Experiment 2. Fund local resistance. If you can donate, don't donate blindly. Look to support the emergency response rooms, or ERRs. These are local mutual aid groups that, even without funding, are feeding their neighbors. The money goes straight to food, without the massive bureaucracy of agencies that sometimes can't even get into the country. Experiment 3. The uncomfortable conversation. The next time the subject of international politics or war comes up at dinner or work, ask a simple question. Have you seen what is happening in Sudan? Breaking the silence in micro-interactions is the first step to fighting global neglect. To close, I want to leave you with a reflection. A UN representative recently said, "The world has failed an entire generation in Sudan." The hunger, the violence, and the displacement we saw today are not natural accidents like an earthquake. They are human choices. Choices by those who supply the weapons, by those who veto resolutions at the UN, and ultimately, by those who choose where to look. Silence in the face of these crimes is not neutrality. It is complicity. If you feel comfortable, share in the comments what part of this video resonated most with you. Your story might quietly help someone else. And if someone came to your mind while you were watching, maybe this is a video they need too. If you'd like more quiet spaces to think about life and grow at your own pace, you're welcome to stay. Subscribe to Reflect and Rise, and let's keep walking this path together. You don't have to rise loudly. You just have to keep rising.